£100 a month. Less than most people spend on coffee and takeaways without thinking. Small enough to feel pointless. So here's the honest question, is it actually worth it? The answer is yes, far more than you'd guess. But the real surprise isn't how much you save. It's when you start. Two people can put away the exact same £100 a month, and one of them ends up with 3 times as much as the other. Same amount in, wildly different amount out. That gap is the most important idea in personal finance, and almost nobody feels it in their gut until it's too late. So let's fix that. In the next few minutes we'll do 3 things. We'll watch what a plain £100 a month actually grows into. We'll prove that when you start beats how much you save. And we'll make it real, exactly where to put that £100 so it does this for you. This is general education, not financial advice. Let's get into it. First, what's actually doing the work here? One word, compounding. Your money earns a return. Then that return earns a return of its own. Then that earns a return, a snowball rolling downhill, getting bigger the further it goes. Let's make it concrete. Picture £100 a month, growing at 5% a year after inflation, a sensible long-run assumption for a fund that tracks the world's stock markets. We'll come back to that number honestly later. After 10 years, you've paid in £12,000, and your pot is worth about £15,500. Nice, but nothing dramatic yet. After 20 years, you've paid in £24,000, and it's worth around £41,000. Now watch. After 30 years, you've paid in £36,000, and the pot is worth roughly £83,000. And after 40 years, you've paid in just £48,000, but the pot is worth over £150,000. Look at what just happened. In the first decade, most of your pot is the money you put in. By the end, most of your pot is growth, money you never earned at a job, that simply appeared because you started and waited. That's compounding. And it explains everything that comes next. Now the part that should change how you think. 3 people, all saving the exact same £100 a month, all stopping at 67. The only difference is the age they begin. Sophie starts at 25. By 67 she's put in £50,000, and her pot is worth about £170,000. Marcus starts at 35. Same 100 a month. He's put in £38,000 and ends with around £94,000. Already, a 10-year head start has nearly doubled the outcome. And Priya starts at 45. She puts in £26,000 and ends with just £48,000. Sit with that. Sophie and Priya saved the identical £100 a month. Sophie's pot is more than 3 times the size of Priya's. Not because she saved more each month, she didn't, but because her money had decades longer to compound. Sophie paid in roughly twice what Priya did, and walked away with 3.5 times as much. This is the whole video in one chart. The most powerful ingredient in building wealth isn't the size of the check. It's time. And time is the one thing you can't buy back later. So what does waiting actually cost? More than feels possible, because the years you give up are your most valuable ones. Here's the part that stops people cold. Take the very first decade of Sophie's saving, the £100 a month she puts away in her 20s. That's £12,000 of contributions. By the time she's 67, that single decade of saving has grown to about £77,000 on its own. Which means the £12,000 she saved in her 20s ends up worth more than Priya's entire pot, built from 22 years of saving from 45. The earliest pounds are, by a distance, the hardest working pounds you will ever invest. Flip it around and it's a warning. Roughly speaking, every decade you delay can cut your final pot in half. And catching up is brutally expensive. To finish with the same pot as Sophie, Priya wouldn't need £100 a month, she'd need around 360. Wait 20 years, and you have to more than triple the monthly amount just to stand still. The lesson isn't to feel guilty about the past. It's this: the cheapest, easiest day to start was years ago. The second cheapest is today. An imperfect £100 started now beats a perfect plan you begin in 5 years. So let's make it real. Where should that £100 actually go? For most people, two tax-friendly homes do the job. The first is a stocks and shares ISA, an individual savings account, a wrapper where your investments grow completely tax-free, and you can pay in up to £20,000 a year. The second is a pension, like a SIPP, a self-invested personal pension. It also grows tax-free, and it adds a bonus on the way in. Put in £80 and the government tops it up to £100 through tax relief, with higher earners able to claim back more. And if you're employed, start with the best deal in finance, your workplace pension. When you contribute, your employer usually adds money too. That's free money on top of your 100, an instant return you'll never beat anywhere else. Never leave it on the table. Now, 2 honest caveats. 1. That 5% growth isn't a promise. Markets rise and fall, some years are negative, and fees and inflation chip away. A cautious 3% or an ambitious 7% gives you a sensible range, and over 40 years a plain 100 a month could land anywhere from roughly £90,000 to over £260,000. 2. These are illustrations, not guarantees. Your capital is at risk. But the engine underneath doesn't change. Pick a low-cost fund, automate the £100 so you never see it, and let time and compounding do the heavy lifting. So, is £100 a month worth it? Let's bring it home. Yes. At a steady 5%, a plain 100 a month becomes around £83,000 over 30 years, and over £150,000 over 40, and most of that is growth, not the money you put in. But the headline isn't the amount. It's the timing. Sophie and Priya saved the same 100 a month. Sophie ended with more than 3 times as much, purely because she started 20 years earlier. When you start beats how much you save. And the first pounds you ever invest are the hardest working pounds of your life. So if you take one thing from this, don't wait to have more to invest. Start small, start now, and let the years do what no amount of cash can. I've built a free compound growth calculator that does all of this for you. Put in your monthly amount, your years, and a return, and watch the pot and the growth build in real time. It's linked in the description. Here's my question for the comments: at what age did you start investing? Or, if you haven't yet, what's the date you're going to? Tell me below. I read every one. If this made compounding finally click, subscribe. One video, one concept, no noise. Next time, how long will £500,000 actually last in retirement, and the withdrawal rate that decides it? See you there.